Yeah, this amazing high five. It's not going to work.
during exams, we were celebrating the end of a particular exam. We drank a bottle of tequila between four of us, and then we ended up going to the drank a bottle of tequila between four of us, and on the way back, we had been asked to leave at a certain time by the manager of the hotel, but we still had tequila in our glasses, so we walked out with the glasses. And when we got opposite the police station, they came roaring out. It was a time when the cops were they were called riot police in those days. Had moved into town, and they hated students. So they arrested us, dragged us inside, and then searched us and found these glasses. So they threw us into a cell for the night. And the next morning, Neil Williams, one of the first black students at Rhodes, and a whole bunch of people came and protested outside the police station for us to be released. And so in the middle of the night, they woke us up. Not him, the police. And the guy said to us, "What are you guys doing?" And we said, No, we were just singing in the street. And he said, "What about the glasses?" And I've never forgotten that. Anyway, we were bailed out and fingerprinted and got a bit of a criminal record as a result of that. But throughout our lives, Paddy and I kind of bumped into each other on occasion. And one of those places was Mafeking, where we both taught at the University of Bophuthatswana. And my abiding memory of Paddy was he liked to sleep late in the morning. And he had a problem waking up, actually. So he would manage to get from his bedroom to the bath, and then he would get into the bath and fall asleep in the bath. And the woman who worked for us came and complained to me, and I'd have to go in there and wake Paddy up and kick him out of the bath so that somebody else could use the bathroom. And he was notorious for that kind of thing. One morning I came out of the house and he was sitting there. He managed to get onto the pavement and he'd fallen asleep. Slept the whole night in his car. That was classic Paddy. So a very nice twist to our story is that my first wife, Jackie, who featured in one of those photographs earlier on, and I got married in Mauritius. And Paddy went with us and acted as a witness at our wedding. And of course, stayed for the honeymoon. Why not? And then about 30 years later, he and Liz went back to Mauritius to get married. And Jackie was the witness at their wedding. She still lives in Mauritius. I came back, she didn't come back. But that was many years later. So that was a nice touch as well, that our lives kind of, met in that particular way. So Paddy was one of the most generous people that I know. And he had friends all over the world. In fact, when he was living with us during COVID in Bathurst, he had this once a week, a whole group of him and his friends all over the world, Brazil and Italy, I think, I can't remember where the others were, would have an online meeting and catch up with each other. That was very typical of the kind of person Paddy was and the way in which people regarded him. Young teenagers loved Paddy because he was like a teenager himself. He would always be the last person to go to bed. He would play cards until early hours of the morning. During lockdown, he taught us to play Skopa, which was his favorite game. And he was very impatient, I must say, when teaching people to play cards. He expected you to, catch on quickly. And we played endless games of cards during, as I suppose a lot of people did during COVID when you were locked down. But yeah, he eventually decided it was time to go back to Liz in York, to their home there. And ironically, he gave up smoking because of the quarantine. And when he got there, they bought electric bicycles and they went around York. And he was extremely happy, and he sang in a choir that he got into. He, as I said, I think he was in an opera fairly recently, until the tragedy that laid him low emerged. So I don't have much more to say than that. I think I've given you a fair idea of the eccentric nature of my friend Paddy, much loved by all. And it's difficult to believe that he's not with us anymore. He always seemed to me to be one of those indestructible people. He had the most amazing capacity for everything. He would spend hours at night online listening to operas, participating in film festivals. He was a polymath of note in terms of his interests and his knowledge. He taught me so much about photography. Everything I know about photography I learned from Paddy. And he was an internationally respected photographer. And then for some reason, I still, to this day, I never managed to get it out of him. He just stopped taking photographs. He's got huge numbers of slides and negatives. Some of his photographs are in London photographic museums and collections in other parts of the world. He was incredibly talented, but also sometimes difficult to fathom, to put it mildly. So I'm going to stop there and move on with the program. There are many other people who would also want to tell you a bit more about Paddy and his life, and I think I've said enough for now. So we are going to have photos now from Paddy's archive, and there will be music in the background by Johann Sebastian Bach. Paddy played church organ as his main instrument, and when he was a student, we used to go to Com-M, and I would sit in between the pipes while Paddy practiced his church organ, and all these hammers and bellows would be going next to me. It was the most amazing experience. Okay, so you'll see some photographs that Paddy took himself, and some photographs of Paddy as a young man. We have Go back to having real people. Alette Swern, who is responsible for organizing most of what's happening today. Of course, there are a lot of other people involved as well, but Alette is the person that you can thank for all the organization. Thank you very much. You can go and kick your students' asses afterwards. And she's going to talk about Paddy as collaborator, fellow teacher, and filmmaker. I hope you have better luck with this microphone tonight.
Yes. So I worked with Paddy for 15 years, and by working together, I don't just mean that we had offices in the same building. We were basically a two-part act for most of the time. You know, we taught together in the same space. He would always chip in when you were teaching. We did projects together. We went all over the Eastern Cape. And working with Paddy was often deeply meaningful and joyful. But working with Paddy was sometimes also maddening. Because he was employed to be an administrator, but he didn't believe in administration. He didn't believe in minutes or schedules or budgets or bookings. He believed in people. I don't think anybody of you could even imagine Paddy taking minutes. Paddy also did not believe in hierarchy, and he was in the university, which is essentially, despite all the talk about democracy, a hierarchical organization: vice chancellor, deans, heads of departments, senior professors, and then the rest of us, media production, lecturers, and support staff, which was what he was. He didn't recognize that hierarchy. He saw everybody as equal and every job description as fluid. In our staff meetings, where support staff are typically always quiet, he had opinions, but only if he was actually able to make the meeting, because he was not a morning person. He crossed the lines. In our teaching, he didn't stand on the sidelines. He was part of it and passionate of it, about what needed to be taught in our projects. And he would tell you when he thought you were wrong. He would not wait to receive requests for support. He would take over projects and run them, like our QTV project for the National Arts Festival. And he often had a deeper understanding of arts and music than any of the visiting arts journalists we brought in to boost our project. Most certainly, these seasoned arts journalists did not know all the backdoor routes to sneak into all the festival venues. And his knowledge of local and struggle history was so deep that many people in the community simply assumed he was a professor and called him that, and he did not correct them. Not everyone appreciated Paddy for crossing these lines. They couldn't imagine that someone in support staff could connect so many dots, but Paddy did not really care what they thought. Most of all, he cared about our students, and he was often with them in the building until late at night, coming in at 3 a.m. to rescue them. And he didn't only help our students, he listened to them, often over a glass of whiskey or red wine, and he was interested in them. Because when Paddy listened to you, he was 100% present, no matter who you were. And that is unusual, particularly for a man. He listened with intensity. He appreciated people and what they said. He would egg you on, nodding his head, moving his hands in those funny, jerky movements, conducting the person to say more and to become more themselves. Because for him it was about that human connection. Paddy could speak to anyone because he was interested in everyone. And his personal politics was connected to his broader politics, that we should live in a world where we appreciate each other, a world of justice and equality. Those ideas came together in our TV projects. Several times we co-opted our colleagues and friend Sheppy Marty and trekked across the Eastern Cape with a combi full of students to Hogsback in the Chumie Valley, where we worked with colleagues from Fort Hare, the wonderful Liz Thomas, who I think is on the Zoom, and her staff, where we told stories through film about land dispossession and the history of the Eastern Cape. And on these film shoots, Paddy would get so excited by the interviews that he would engage everybody we interviewed for ages afterwards until the students dragged him away to the next location. Paddy cared about our stories because they were a record of people's lives, of their struggles for justice. And he was the keeper of our stories because he was an archivist. He set up a database of stories. He had mountains of tapes and later hard drives all over his office. He set up our YouTube channel, which now has millions of views. He fought passionately with our IT staff who were constantly trying to erase those hard drives. And over the years, we started seeing the value of this archive. We now had a record of the first stories of our students who would go on to be fabulous media celebs. And Paddy was we also had a record of our town. Paddy was the person that some people came to when someone died, because he would spend ages finding bits of video from many years ago where that person was filmed. And he would sit and listen to the bereaved person about the meaning of that person in their lives. So it's really deeply ironic that despite his passion for history, for the archive, we never interviewed Paddy. And for this reason, we also wanted to bring you all together to kind of help compile his archive and his record and celebrate his legacy. Like the film festival that we just had yesterday with our students, the 15th one, Paddy was the one who set that up because he had worked in film festivals for so many years. He knew the meaning of, having an audience showing and appreciating your film. So really, but Paddy also knew once when he was at an event, when it was time to move on, when the party was over and the Zol and whiskey were finished, there was always somewhere else to go. When Paddy was with you, he was 100% there, but he was always also on the move to the next thing. And wherever he is, I'm sure he's in wonder, in awe, and delighted that this is all happening, and that we're helping him create his archive. So I'd just like to say thank you to all of you, and also to Paddy, my friend. Keep moving through the stars, blasting Bach as you go, marveling at the world. Your job is done. Mooi loop, hambagatle, hambakakule. Thank you, Monty.
When a giant falls, it is beyond the pain. It is the nation that suffers. When a giant falls, Kukalatina, we cry, for we lost a man of gratitude and fortitude. We have lost a voice in our society. A guy who said, I am who I am because of who we are. Umtu, Gabantu. When a giant falls, we remember. We not remember just only the life. We remember the moments we cherished, the moments, the laughters, the jokes, everything about him, because I heard a scream, I heard a cry from the mine dumps of Boksbeek, and they said to me, the giant has fallen. The giant has fallen. Paddy, you came from streets where Boksbeek and Germiston carried the dust of ordinary lives, where history moved quietly through the cracks of the pavement, but loss found you early. Before you had fully learned how to hold on to family, life had already begun teaching you the difficult language of letting go. And yet, Paddy, you did not allow life to make you smaller. Instead, you gathered people, wakikhaya ngabantu, kwintlanga ngentlanga, wakumkhanyo ngabantu, kwimvaba ngemvaba. You built a home out of humanity. You gathered friends like photographs, but not to possess them, but to remember them. And slowly, to love and struggle, to work, conversation, laughter, and grief, you built yourself a family where blood was never the price of entry. Before the camera became your companion, Paddy, before the camera became your companion, you once looked towards the altar. You wanted to become a priest. Perhaps, Paddy, you never really abandoned that calling. Perhaps you simply changed churches. The streets became your cathedral. The people became your congregation. And listening became your prayer. Wapula pula. You listened to the voices whose suffering. You listened to the voices who had stories. You listen to the voices who had stories but no audience. To those whose suffering had become so ordinary that the world had stopped noticing. And when someone spoke, you did not hurry to fill the silence. You gave them room. You gave them dignity. You gave them the rarest gift of all, the feeling that somebody was truly listening. You had legal patience for letters built on people's back. Hierarchy, while it has never impressed you, status could not buy a chair in the circle of your heart. I am who I am because of who we are. A person was a person. No one was too important to be questioned. No one was too ordinary to be loved. You carried rebellion, but not like a weapon, but like a compass, always pointing you towards what was fair, towards what was human, towards justice. Perhaps some of that fire traveled to you through your father, Irish, anti-colonial, a man who resisted the easy comfort of domination. And you too learned that the silence can become a form of permission. So when apartheid demanded obedience, you learned towards resistance. When the world was divided between those who mattered and those who did not, you chose to stand where dignity was under attack. Inspired by the winds of liberation, by voices that refused to let the people's pain, inhlungu yabantu, to disappear in history. When awakhethu ungathuli, wabetha phansi kwatakuthuli. When awakhethu ungazoli, wazijula ujaqu, ulwelo bulungisa. You refused to be quiet. It was another way of seeing, Paddy, a witness with an open eye. Your camera lens was a witness with an open eye. Through it, you looked towards the people history had pushed to the margins. You photographed struggle so that memory will have evidence, so that tomorrow could never feel comfortable to pretend that yesterday had not happened. Ukugcina imbali ingasuswa, ukugcina isibane singacinywa, to keep history from being erased, to keep the light from being extinguished. Your photographs seem to whisper, saying, look again, look closer, not at statistics, not at subjects, not at distant suffering. Look at people, human beings whose life deserve to remain visible. You studied journalism and you loved music, but because, you know why? You know why? You had a lesson, an ancient lesson of listening beneath the noise. Listen for the story behind the story. Listen for the rhythm hidden inside a human voice. You spoke to people, but more beautiful than that, you listened to them. Ngoba ngamanye amaxesha lento kukumamela ngumsebenzi wothando, lento kukumamela ngumsebenzi wendlebe enomqheba. Sometimes listening is an act of love. To truly hear another person is to say, I see you. Your story matters. You're not invisible. And today, Paddy, we're struggling to focus. Your departure has shaken us. Siyaphazama phakathi kwenhlungu, ducking and diving through the grief, trying to understand how the man who saw so much has now moved beyond the reach of our eyes. We keep looking for you. We keep looking for you, Paddy, in the photographs, in the stories, in the places you walked, in the voices of the people you stopped long enough to hear, but perhaps we're searching in the wrong direction, because all of us here are somewhere inside your lens. a photograph of laughter, a photograph of struggle, a conversation that lasted too long because nobody wanted to leave. A moment of silence where words were unnecessarily. A hand on a shoulder, a sad joke, a difficult truth, a life briefly witnessed and therefore never completely forgotten. You captured more than the fences. You captured more than the faces. You captured presence. Nathi mhlobo wethu silapha. Now today we're saying it is as though a camera has suddenly gone quiet in the middle of the story. But Paddy, the photographs remain, the stories remain, the people remain, and your vision remains in us. Your lens has passed on. It asks us to look again, to look beyond poverty and see dignity, beyond pain and see humanity, beyond silence and hear the story. To question what should be questioned, to stand when standing becomes necessary, to refuse indifference, because perhaps this is the final lesson you leave with us. To truly see a person is an act of love. And so, Paddy, we gather here with our hearts broken, heavier than words can carry. Let us imagine this moment as a one final scene. Imagine the world as a film set. As a film set, the room is filled with memory. Our hearts are carrying too much. The lights tremble against our tears. The frame is crowded with every life you touched. And then somewhere beyond the frame, we hear a voice saying, Paddy, camera, rolling, and action. And today, Paddy, Sitike Gunoche, we refuse. You always understood that the story is bigger than one sin, because somewhere beyond what you can see, you can smile. It is not the end. We're saying this is not the end. It is only the moment between one sin and the next. Let the camera rest. Let the lights go down. Let the set fall silent. Hamba Paddy, go. Hambuambe, go and sit among the great ones who walked before us. The ones who carried truth when truth was dangerous. The ones who stood for justice when standing came at a loss. Hamba kakuhle Paddy kwedini. Hamba kakuhle ubuye namaqhawe ajinga inyaniso, gcebe ajinga iliso ukuze bethethe inyaniso. Ndiziwele okweinkonjane zibhabhe emafini ubuye nemfezeko yamaphupha ethu. And when the final light of this earthly scene disappears, when the room becomes quiet, when the last photograph has been placed down, when our tears finally begin to settle, we will still hear you, we still hear your voice somewhere beyond the frame saying, camera, rolling, action. So dear Paddy, for this earthly chapter, let the director finally call and say, cut.
Thank you, Alette, for that lovely picture you've painted for us of Paddy at work. I could just see it while you were talking. And thank you to our praise singer for that wonderful eulogy to Paddy. I could just, if he had been here right now, I could just hear him giggling embarrassedly because of all the attention being focused on him. And he would kind of like be going, maybe we should just go for a beer rather. But thank you for all that. The next item on our program is a message from Sheppy Marty, and it's going to be read by Robbie van Niekerk. After I retired and went to Bathurst, Paddy hung in Grahamstown with, he found a new bunch of cavaliers to hang out with. Robbie and Sheppy were, I think, the mainstay with Graham and various other people. They were his late night jawling mates, while I retired in rural splendor in Bathurst. Robbie.
Privileged to share some words on behalf of Sheppy Marty, a dear friend of Paddy's. As you know, Sheppy is also part of the community of Makanda and a member of the Journ department. And also just want to share on behalf of my own family, Oshin, Nia, and all our deep heartbreak at the loss of dear Paddy. So I'll read what Sheppy has shared with us, because unfortunately Shippy himself is battling health concerns and he's sadly not able to be with us today. Paddy was born on the other side of the railway tracks. As a white person under apartheid, he was destined for a life of privilege. However, inspired by liberation theology, as soon as the scales were lifted from his eyes and he could see the injustice meted out to the majority of his country, men and women, Paddy committed to doing everything, big and small, to contribute to the fight for personal and social emancipation. It was in the streets and the struggle through sweat, tears, and sometimes blood that we forged a comradeship and brotherhood. And in a small but significant way, it showed what a new nation could look like. Our forebears had sought to slay the demon of racialism and tribalism, forging an African consciousness. And in the late 1960s, under the most repressive conditions, our elder brothers and sisters took this to a higher degree by forging black consciousness as a way of life to bring those who called Kaffers, Hotnots, and Coolies together. One of the symbolic expressions of what the new nation could look like was arguably the Mandla Cultural Ensemble, even though it was yet to include the minstrel and klopse expressions of the descendants of the enslaved of the Cape and the expressions of the descendants of the indentured laborers brought to the east coast of the country in the 19th century, as well as the expressions of the descendants of the refugees from Europe who ran away from religious persecution. All these cultural expressions, together with those of the indigenous communities of our country, were, are, and continue to be a collective cultural heritage for all of us. And as a person with high sensibility and capacity to appreciate beauty and creativity, Paddy was proud to claim this heritage forged in the struggle to build a new nation. Today, even in the spaces of higher education, there appears to be a wave of retreat to Bantustan enclaves. I first met Paddy in London in 1990. At the time, if my memory serves me well, it was working for CAFOD. Or was he already at IDIF? Always carrying his SLR camera bag on his shoulder, a cigarette in one hand, and ready to drop that glass of wine and switch off the stove with those boiling pots and rush out at the snap of a finger. He documented the struggle for freedom diligently and sensitively. But unlike Arthur Nockey's view that some of us must storm the castle, some define the happening, Paddy was among both those who stormed the castle and captured the story. There are hundreds of spools of negatives he has left behind. One day, Robbie and I suggested that he work with students to create these and put together a traveling exhibition, giving those he captured an opportunity to interact with their images. After all, the dawn of democracy had gathered many back home from exile who had been scattered for decades to the four corners of the earth. A true Mnumtu, a mensch, and generous to a fault. Ask the car guards of Nkanda. They will tell you. When a human being of a lighter hue in the context of our special circumstances of apartheid demonstrated through his deeds and rose above his class and racial privilege, those of a darker hue would say, Lamlungu Nguntu, Pegawa Elike Motho. We stayed at a flat, which again, I do not remember well if it was. We all made ourselves at home. Lensiwe, Fred Barron, Martina, Zena, and two friends whose names I cannot remember. Then I met Paddy again when I came to work at Rhodes University in 2015. I lived with him for 6 months. I can attest that Paddy lived life to the full, as if there was no tomorrow. Every opportunity found, he would cook up a storm and throw a party. Always in a rush to pick up wine, beers, and whiskey, and a pack of 20s of his favorite cigarettes. Regular visitors to number 10 Rennie Street were a champion of documentary filmmaking in the Eastern Cape, Reba, and a social movement activist, Ayanda Kota. At the back of the house was a lone tree of marijuana. Whenever Reba was around, they would roll up a joint and indulge in the herb. When Reba wasn't there, Robert would take his place, puffing whatever Paddy's soul tree could yield. Often he would be joined by the eccentric art teacher Graham Dumont. When Paddy and Graham were breaking bread over a bottle of wine or spirits, the decibels would go way up as neither wanted the other to have the last word on the subject. As a third person on these occasions, I would retreat to studying the interaction and rhetoric of these two fellows. And I would celebrate the break when Paddy moves over to the piano and Graham takes out his mouth or jaw harp and would blow away. The house at Rennie Street became a home away from home for many people. Martina de la Tonga, Eugene Paramour, Leslie de Kenny, Mike Abrams. His generosity extended to our cousins. A group of monkeys would hang around the big tree in front of the house at 10 Rennie Street. He would treat them to bananas. One day this group helped themselves to freshly baked scones by the lady next door. She had laid them out on the table whilst they were steaming hot. She was not impressed by Paddy and his friends. Needless to say, this soured the relations between the neighbors for some time. One summer vacation, Paddy and Liz decided to take a tour of the country. In Cape Town, they stayed with Emily and me. I have memories of us feasting on fresh fish and chips at Snookie's in Fishhook and in Muizenberg. Apartheid placed us on a divide. Paddy turned his back on privilege and threw his lot in with those fighting for justice. And through this, he humanized himself and left this earth slightly better than he found it. Let the generations of his students pick up the baton and continue the unfinished struggle for freedom and social justice. Till we meet again, mooi loop, Grootman.
Thank you, Robbie. It's quite interesting. Some of the things that people have been saying about Paddy brought back memories of my own. And you were mentioning, Alette, how he could get into any show because he knew all the venues. In London, when I visited him in London, he would sneak us for free into music shows, into all kinds of things, even South Africa House. He knew everybody there. And he would take you on these tours and just somehow miraculously get in. He never paid for anything. It was typical Paddy. And then the other thing about the car guards. I don't know how many cameras, computers Paddy lost because he would just leave them on the back seat of his car. And we'd say, Paddy, you can't leave your stuff inside in your car. And Graham's like, yeah, I just rushed in for a minute, and I came back and it's gone. I think there must be a whole collection out there somewhere of cameras and computers that belong to Paddy. It's classic. Okay, Paddy as a supporter of the Eastern Cape Film Festival. Nkeba, is that a video or are we going to have... live. Where is...
See me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? I'm on screen. I'm on the screen. I'm on Zoom.
Behind there.
I'm on Zoom.
Okay.
I'm there. I'm on the screen. I'm on Zoom.
Do you want to say something about the film festival? Ah.
Can you guys hear me? Yes. Oh, okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Good day, good afternoon. My name is Neba Mkolomba, the founder and the director of the Eastern Cape Film Festival. It's very hard for me to speak now. Not in terms of like I can't speak. It's just like it's a corner putting like the press poet. He basically mentioned everything that I could talk about Paddy, the kind of person Paddy was. We're all here all over the world because of the man he was. Paddy was amazing. He was amazing. He was an amazing man. I met him in 2015, stand to be corrected, during the first Eastern Cape Film Festival. And ever since then, our relationship blossomed. It's like people say, Paddy meets you today, next day you in Makanda with him, and you want let's stay at his house for the next week. He doesn't want you to leave. Since I was pushing film festivals, I started the Eastern Cape Film Festival. Then there was the Salah Badman Film Festival, which I did for 3 years, which then became the Makanda Virtual Film Festival during the COVID days, the year he actually left for York. He actually left in 2021. And the first year we did that, what I actually did, because of the love and respect I had for him, I invited him as part of the film festival. I lied to him and said, no, Paddy, come see what's happening. We just need your input. I actually brought some of his friends, his former students, people like Asavela, who had mentioned there what Paddy did for him. When I went to drop him off at the house with a bag, and he said, he's staying here. Uzim Kweza, one of the students who one day was chilling at his place, wakes me up on a Saturday morning. Ngaba, wake up. Imagine what's going on. My students are shooting in the sky, some in the wrong areas, and I've got issues. So obviously, being Paddy, then we couldn't go to sleep. We saw that out. He was a beautiful man. He was something else. Like it's his smile as the warmth he gave you. He was always very welcoming. And when he came to the film festivals, he was always there. He was always there supporting, always pushing me. He would always be the guy saying, so what's happening? Show me the program. What's going to happen? Which films? Then he was doing when he did the student films festival in Makanda at Rhodes. Then obviously then at that moment, he basically came back to me and we're always working together, putting his films on screen. And to give an example of the kind of man Paddy was, actually when I read the last 2 or 3 messages that his conversation between me and him, I was in Makanda for the National Arts Film Festival. And then on the 1st of July, on the 3rd of July to be exact, I sent him a message. I sent him a location because we're going to park next to his place. So I sent him a message, a location, that's all. And then I tried to call him, he didn't respond. And then he comes and tells me, obviously, this is being Paddy. Like, it's something serious, but he's so relaxed. Oh, gosh, spooky. Tell me how my looks down the lane. That road used to be the main road down to my farmhouse back in the dark days. Enjoy the water and power cuts. And then he goes, hope you good, and festival still has some lights flickering. Is the film festival of Worky Film still running? Then he goes into serious stuff. I'm in deep gag. My years of being a professional rocker caught up. Found a nasty lung in Feb. I've been on chemo and responded well. Focal side effects and little symptoms. I stopped smoking 5 years ago, so no real cough and spook, which helps. But it's a killer, so I'm feeling fine, but the fact will take me out sometime soon. A year max, unless there's a miracle. And I know Sagomba's here to take to my ancestors. That's it. That's him, his humor. And then it still only ends off the message. It's him again being the Paddy. I'm thinking of leaving some dosh to ECFF when I beg, to keep you in Paddy supplies and do some festival screenings and bribe someone to make a program of films you show. And then I responded to him, Madala, please know when I can call you. I'll call him Madala after he retired. And then I was listening to Lira some other time, this song, the higher you build your barriers, because he sang that song once, and I always used to he likes to sing that doing his voice. So we started chatting, and then I sent him a message, and then all his responses, cheers, my man, drifting away here, send detail how to send money in a will to send to my NFF lawyers. I'm like, Paddy, bruh, that's the least of my worries. Paddy was that kind of a man. And then I actually remembered a few days on the Thursday, Paddy passed away on the Saturday. And then on the Thursday, I was going through on my Facebook and I saw memories of doing the first film festival. It's him and Jamil and me and Ngweti and Tatu Ben Moyi. And I sent him these pictures. And then I sent him a message on the Thursday. This is my last message to him. Hey, Paddy, checking up on you. I have you in my thoughts, and you're a very good, gentle, and loving humanoid. The only issue is you never liked me to sleep while having to wake up and hike to meet your favorite CEO in the whole wide world. Think of all the funny mentions and every moments that we had, me and you. And obviously, but he didn't respond to that. That was on a Thursday. But in my heart, I feel quite some kind of relief because at least one thing I know that he did read those messages. And he did know how I felt about him because he was an amazing, 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 amazing man. And Praship mentioned earlier on about me, he had the tree at the back that sometimes would be stolen. I said, Paddy, just chop off the tree. That no, man. And then the next morning we wake up and the tree was gone. but he was an amazing man, and I'm so glad that I happened to basically bump into him in my life. And what are the living things I am dedicating myself, I'm going to do during the Eastern Cape Film Festival. I'm going to commit something to Paddy, whether it's an award or a panel. Like I said, this is something new, so obviously still has to be done, but guaranteed during this year's film festival. In fact, not but starting from this year's film festival, we'll be doing something to honor Paddy and the role he's played as a humanitarian for me, for us filmmakers in the province. And to you, Liz, thank you very much for the guy you gave us, because you sacrificed a lot to give him to us. Because he basically, I was amazed to hear that he didn't have his other family passed away at a young age. That's why he became so loving, because he took us all as his own kids. He adopted us as his family. So thank you very much, Liz, for that. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for this. Thank you, guys. His spirit will live forever. It will never die. Thank you to everyone.
Something. Um, it was an equal measure to his passion. And the last time I was in this church, I was sitting right here, and Paddy was there recording this song for me. It's pretty much the only time I've ever made a decent music video. And it's still sitting on a hard drive because I'm pathologically incapable of releasing anything, apparently. But this is for Paddy. I promise I'll release it. So it's gonna be, I don't know if you'll hear it. I hope you can. Can you hear it? Okay.
like flowers blossom. Jealous of mine, yeah. Teardrop on fire, oh, you're the sun in my brain, yeah. Oh, teardrop on fire, yeah.
Thank you, Dave. That was an amazing performance. I think you should do something with that hard drive. Okay, what we're going to do now is to have some memories of Paddy by his students. We've said a lot, and people have said a lot about how amazingly Paddy was able to relate to young people. I saw the comment earlier by my son, but they used to call him and his friends used to call Paddy P-Dog. And P-Dog was incredible in terms of his ability to relate to everybody, but especially to young people. So could we have the video slideshow, Adored by Students, it's called.
Number 4.
It looks like the projector's moved. Hugs back. Okay, now we're going to have some of the students actually giving a short input about Paddy. We're starting with Luando Ntenda. Let's move it back.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope I'm audible at the back. My name is Luando, former student product of Paddy Donnelly. I was class of 2017, majored in journalism and media studies, specializing in television. There is a very common saying in my home language, isiXhosa, if I loosely translate it, but if I've misunderstood it, we've got Xhosa fundis who can correct me outside when we're done, which I often hear usually after a funeral when people look at the magnitude or diversity of people present to celebrate when one has passed. So they usually say that a car is followed by its dust. So basically, what it means to me, it's a idiom of legacy. So basically, how you live your life, or we get to see how you lived your life by the people present to celebrate you when you've passed on. And having seen everything that has been happening all over social media, the WhatsApp groups all over the country and everywhere, I think it's safe to believe that Paddy's car was driving very fast. It drove very far, and it's picked up a lot of dust wherever it went. Like I said, class of 2017, everything I know about television, I was taught by Paddy. I sometimes get annoyed watching Netflix and television, seeing the tiny errors and mistakes and everything, because I wondered to myself, like, did anyone else not read, or did anyone else not have a final look at whatever is being presented? Because those final details were what he actually taught us. In our class, we had about 25 people. Of those 25, 20 were female, and only 5 of us were gents. So of those 5, 4 were in one practical group. I was the only guy in my practical group. So naturally, I became closer to Paddy than I was with all the other ladies. And I think that's where we really bonded and got close. I was happy to see that slideshow showing our trip to Hogsburg in 2017. I didn't know that those pictures existed, but they were literally showing our journey there in Hogsburg. I remember when we drove down there, there were, I think Alet mentioned it in her speech, 2 modes of transport. It was a taxi and a private car driven by Sheppy. So I was like, okay, let me drive with Sheppy, and all the other ladies went with Paddy. So as he started driving the Quantum, I kept looking at Sheppy to see if he's noticing how he's driving. But Sheppy didn't seem to care. He just drove his car all the way to Hogsburg. I realized when we were up there, as you could see, it's a very bushy area. Paddy didn't stop when there was a bush behind him. He stopped when he had enough space to turn in front of him. That taxi's bumper was hanging when we returned from Hogsburg that day, and it had a lot of scratches. Driving down the mountain from Hogsburg, driving behind him, we noticed that his mirrors were closed. We tried to flag him to stop trying to call the ladies in the bus, but we had network issues until Sheppy found a safe space to overtake and like put his hazards on to make sure that he stopped and told him, your mirrors are folded. So he was someone who really didn't care. He lived a carefree life, basically, in the personal space. But when it came to his work, he was very professional, very detail-orientated, very helpful. Like it was mentioned, you get stuck and things are not loading at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. You could always count on him to give you advice. If it doesn't work out, trust he'll be there very early in the morning to assist you retrieve whatever videos that you might have lost. This is a very great loss, not just to the small town of Makanda, but having seen the impact worldwide, I'm sure that he'll be missed by many. That's it. He'll be missed. We're sure to miss Paddy. Thank you.
Fatima Simji Gaston. Online, okay. Are we getting the feed?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm so honored to say a few words about our dearest Paddy on behalf of some of his students. I asked some of my old classmates, now scattered around the world, to share their memories and reflections with me. One response included, I literally have no idea what his actual job was or what he did, but I will always remember him. I laughed because I too only found out this week that his official position was television production manager. I genuinely didn't know that. For the last 20 years, I thought of his titles as lifesaver on many occasions, mentor, friend, but on reflection, the most impactful one was as an equal. Despite an age gap of 40 years and every institutional reason for that not to be the case, that was part of Paddy's magic. Never condescending, never a lecturer, but always teaching, always helping. I never knew what his official role was because he was always everything. One of the most relatable and common student experiences, and the one where Paddy really shone, was the dreaded crashed hard drive or lost footage. And thinking back, I'm genuinely amazed at how he treated our work.
Can't hear.
To Paddy, it was never just terrible student garbage that can just be reshot the next day, which it almost certainly was. To him, it was precious, Oscar-worthy material that we absolutely had to retrieve in order to share with the world.
She's going to be very
Even long
disappointed when she
after I
hears
would
she has
have
to do it
given
all
up,
over again.
sometimes even after I'd left, I'd gone home, I had decided it wasn't worth it. I'd returned the next day to find out that he had stayed hours late into the night to find our precious gems. He never treated us as just students or our work as anything less than important. For a lot of us, it was the first time anyone had believed in us like that. Another classmate shared Paddy's mantra: there is always an alternative solution. He had said this within the context of documentary filmmaking, but it's a piece of advice that has rung true for a lot of us in all aspects of our lives. Paddy would help. Lost footage, broken gear, Paddy would help. Car broken down in Port Alfred, Paddy would help. Invited him to a digs party, Paddy would help polish off the punch. Kept a bottle of whiskey in his bottom drawer and decades of our work safely archived. He did the laborious admin of entering our films into competitions, and we started winning, and we started thinking of ourselves as filmmakers. That is not a small thing to do for a young person. There was always a party on the go. Drinks, he would say, rubbing his head deep in thought. What are we drinking? Nosh. Let's organize some nosh, as one of my classmates fondly remembered. A special memory for me was one late night smoking cigarettes outside the Joan department. Paddy very good-naturedly chuckled at my youthful obsession with the poet Khalil Gibran And I shared some of my favorite quotes, and he in turn recited some beautiful Irish prose that I really wish I could remember. So I think it's only fitting to send off our maestro with these words. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing, and when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb, and when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. Go gently, Padster. We are so lucky to have mingled with your magic. Thank you.
Not sure if you can hear us. The next person is
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sanele Njingana, and I met Paddy in 2015 during my third year of TV journalism at Rhodes University. At the time, our lecturer was Leila Dugan, and Paddy was our technical guy. And to many of us, Paddy was our highlight of the course. And he was such a helpful person, whether it was a sound problem on a footage that you had forgotten, after you had forgotten your lapel mic, or your mic when you were shooting, or when you're scrambling to find a footage that you'd dumped into the wrong file the night before. Paddy was always deeply approachable. And I would like to just share 3 things about Paddy. And on that note, I'd like to address him. So Paddy, in TV journalism, we had crit sessions where we'd showcase our stories we had made for the week, and we'd get feedback from our colleagues and staff. And your feedback sometimes was always brief, sometimes just one word, good, delivered in that baritone voice of yours. But you really noticed us, Paddy. You noticed our passions, what made us tick. And I think you got close to me because of my social justice inclinations, my activism, and my keen interest in socio-political issues. You were indeed a man of few words sometimes. You were deeply present, and you were deeply attentive. The other thing about Paddy is that Paddy loved gossip. My connection with you, Paddy, went beyond the classroom. We kept in touch over the years since I graduated from the Journalism and Media Studies department through Facebook and WhatsApp. One time I house sat for you while you were away. It was during December holidays, and you were in the UK. And during a check-in, you asked whether someone had come to collect a verse that you had saved for them over the weekend. I told you that the person did not come, and you said, okay, Sanele, eat that verse. And in the same message, you asked me any gossip. And I wish I had had some gossip to share, but it was December, and Makanda was pretty quiet at that time of the year. And the last thing I want to share about you, Paddy, is you were a radically human being. You were a rare breed. You were a rare breed of a human kindred spirit, and you lived your life in a way that showed us real commitment to the struggle of the people of the soil. You saw yourself in us, young and old, and that is why we also saw ourselves in you. In your house, you kept rare books and documentaries on the Black history, the Eastern Cape's history. Paddy, one thing about Paddy, he was a hoarder. He hoarded a lot of things, great literature, great music, films, and yet he spoke and he walked unassumingly. And to me, that is the greatest measure of what it means to be a truly human being. And that now you are gone, Paddy, we are more poorer. Thank you for everything you have done for us. With love, Sanele.
Much to Sarah's horror. So, things because of that. You'd phone me from auctions and say, hey, there's a really nice, whatever, lawnmower, or snooker table, you know. Do you want it? Should I bid on it? No, thanks, Paddy, our house is full enough. Okay, the next person is Robin Peros, who I believe is here.
Good afternoon, everybody, and to everyone online and to all the angels. It strikes me that we have very little control over how we are remembered after we pass, what is remembered about us, or who remembers us at all. I remember Paddy from 2013. I, a young TV student in the Rhodes Journalism School, and he, our eccentric production teacher. During that year, I must have passed Paddy's office over 1,000 times. The image of him hunched over his computer, dressed in a colorful t-shirt, piles of cables, books, and DVDs built around him like a sculpture, is an image well worn, a cattle path, if you will, in my mind. I reached out to several of my old classmates and asked them what they remembered about Paddy. One person said, Paddy had a wonderful energy. He was always so engaged, down to earth, and really one of us, like he never outgrew being a student. Another said, I have a vivid sense of his physicality, his hair. He was always there late at night helping us edit. He was very proud of us and the work we produced. Another said, my favorite memory of Paddy was when he would come into the editing suite and sit down to help us, but accidentally delete our files. Via a WhatsApp group created for this occasion, a student in the class above me shared a memory so exquisite I wished it was mine. He said, I invited Paddy to our digs party in 2012. He arrived at 3 a.m. when everyone had already disappeared to Friars, and we sat and drunkenly watched Samsara, a 2-hour documentary with no dialogue. My own and favorite memories of Paddy are far less vivid, far more mundane. I remember smoking rollies with them outside the department, back in the day when people smoked, back in the day when students smoked with their lecturers outside departments. It always puzzled me how Paddy smoked without a filter. At the time, I put it down to a generational difference. The man had seen some things in his time. But looking back now, I see this as kind of how he lived his life, without a filter. Not in a way that was crass, but in a way that was, especially to a young person building themselves, utterly enlivening. It was here, huddled around these miniature campfires, that Paddy told the best stories. It's strange how I can't remember one of them. What I do remember, though, is the way he told them, one hand twirling, his shoulders dancing as he laughed. Everyone who stood close to Paddy was warmed by him. Paddy taught us many things about how to tell stories, how to edit them, filter them. But perhaps the most lasting lesson was something quite unteachable, and that is passion. For this, on behalf of his students, we thank him and we remember him.
Thank you, Robin, for that. Okay, so we now get to that stage where I know it's been a long program, and thank you for your patience. If there's anybody who would like to say something, if you could keep it short, I think everybody else would appreciate that. Yeah, the floor is open. I think you indicated. If you could just introduce yourself briefly.
Hi everyone, I'm Gareth Walwyn, and myself and my wife Shiloh are here in personal capacity to mourn with you all. But isn't it just, I just keep reflecting, it's so Paddy-like that this funeral is so very upbeat, colorful, chaotic, musical, and it really has. The whole afternoon, I've just had a load of memories of Paddy, and I'm very grateful for that. We haven't spoken much about Liz, and I only met Liz once, but my heart does go out to Liz in the sense of mourning. I think she knew a yet more intimate form of Paddy that perhaps we were not privileged enough to know. He was so generous, and he shared so much, both, of his life force and his energies and all that. He must have just been the most fantastic partner. So my heart goes out to you, Liz, for this loss. In my other capacity, I'm here to speak for Access Music Project. In our infancy, as the project was developing, Paddy was just endlessly kind. And I almost wondered, what does he want from us, at first? And we got chatting, and my dad had been a photographer on the Rand Daily Mail. So I grew up knowing loads of activist journalists. They were kind of normal. I always found other people's parents who weren't activists, they were kind of talking a language that I didn't really understand. And so then when we got chatting, and then Paddy said, oh yes, well of course that and that and that, we realized we had so much in common. And then with the singing, we got involved with the music together, and then he got involved with Masikule and was shooting that. We had so much in common. And then he revealed to me something that it took a while to put a name on it, and it was really with Paddy, that when people ask us to describe the work of Access Music Project, we eventually realized it's a form of activism. It's activism through the transformation of education. Because I think that was just something that was so amazing about Paddy, was he was basically an activist through the medium of being a Paddy. Everything he did was just so generous. And he was so motivated by the good things to cause change. And I took a lot of inspiration from that. And so for me and Shiloh, we will miss a dear friend. But what's really interesting is, although of course AMP would miss him, many of the students now don't know him and never met him. Yet the things he did to push us on our way and get us started and give us hope here and courage here and a little bit of, assistance in sorting out that, those things are forever. And I think it's just lovely that we can say that. Personally, to Liz, that you have lost a wonderful person, but the things that he's given to projects like ours and to individuals, they are not lost. They are so well invested, and they go on and on and on and on. And so a bit later on, you'll hear a fanfare. Did an adaptation of Fanfare for the Common Man. The idea behind this piece is that fanfares shouldn't be reserved for politicians and army people and famous and wealthy people. Who plays joyfully for the common man? And so I've done an adaptation of that. And in that, I think you'll also hear memories of Hambagahle Mkhoto, which of course speaks for us all. Thank you for the opportunity to say thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Anybody else? Just mind the way.
Hello all, I'm Zaza Jamond. My mom's a Let's Go In colleague, and my dad was friends with him for a long period of time. It's been an interesting week where it's like it finally hit me that he was after reading my mother's farewell speech when he retired. And it's the interesting thing of talking about how he always loved to hoard things. In our house after he moved away, we've got all these little eccentricities of Paddy lying around our house. A hippo as a doorstop, 2 of my favorite jackets. And whenever I drive past his house, I'm like, that's where Paddy is, with the velvet monkeys and the bell bottle tree to brush your hair, and the intricacies of his house. I remember from my childhood, the very dangerous loft where all the children used to play. It's been greatly intriguing dealing with the loss of Paddy, but at the same time, being able to be here and remember him is such a great thing. And remembering his bright pink face and joy. And as the audio issues happened, I just imagined him giggling, slumping in a chair.
Yeah, that Paddy was a godfather to a large number of children all over the world. Some of them didn't even know that he was their godfather. I spoke to someone the other day and said, don't you remember Paddy? Is he? James Wiley. He didn't remember that Paddy was. So he adopted children all over the world. Carry on. Graham.
Good afternoon and welcome all, and thank you all for being here. It's such a special moment to say goodbye to Paddy. Paddy was my best friend in Grahamstown, and every second Friday night I used to get together with him at his house, with Robbie and Shippy, and sometimes students who came in and pulled out. And we'd start off with a modest meal, get onto the red wine, and then later onto the whiskey when the red wine ran out. And then when Shippy and Robbie politely left, I'd stay on till 4, 5, 6 in the morning, not talking to Paddy, but listening to him. And listening to him explain the intricacies of Bach compositions. And the music of Bach is so heavenly. And so the most important thing that I can take away from Paddy's memory for me is the appreciation of music and camaraderie and being together in a space where Paddy would hold you. I'm wearing his shirt today, which we picked up at the SPCA shop because he donated all his clothes there when he left Grahamstown for York. And in a way, to channel Paddy, you know, it's his gestures, his voice. It's ringing in my memory. 2 weeks before he passed, I had an hour-long video chat on WhatsApp with him. And he was holding up very well, but you could see he was in pain and gaunt. And yet besides that, he still was asking questions. What's happening in Grahamstown? So I said, well, it's gone very quiet. And it has gone quiet for me because Paddy's left. He's not only left Grahamstown, he's left the planet. Somewhere in the ancestral plane. And I think he's making music, being Paddy. And so I say, Amagahle Kakule. Paddy, thank you so much for giving us your presence and your energy and your love. And I would like just to say to Liz, I'm so sorry for your loss, and may Paddy rest in peace. And to all of you, thank you so much. And I think we should all go out there and get a drink and celebrate Paddy in a Paddy style. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Rob. Rob, I've known as long as I've known Paddy. We were at Rhodes together from 1976. Go, Rob.
So I also find this a privilege to come back, join my brothers and sisters, because that is what this has meant, and Paddy especially. Well, I actually not 76, but 78 I came.
Oh, you were a lot, Lamiki.
Yeah. And I just caught a glimpse of Paddy. It was only really a decade later in London. People have been talking about getting in the back door. He got us into the inaugural Guinness Fleet concert. This is an Irish Celtic concert with 2 stages. With Hothouse Flowers, Christy Moore, Van the Man just before the last tube goes. And he was running around assisting people, helping them. We stayed in his top floor attic room in Brixton, where the owner further contextualized the Irish struggle through the ballads of Christy Moore. You don't know Christy Moore, do you? Thank you, Graham. Okay. In 2006, I came here. It was and stayed with him for several months, and that's really where I got a better insight into Paddy the man. He'd recently arrived from Britain to take up his job in the department, and of course he'd scoured London. I think he told me that he'd nearly missed his sort of flight in sort of finding the largest digital storage sufficient for his vast and varied music. And on that first night, we devoured a small part of that sound as I moved in, and we danced until 3 o'clock in the morning, just me and him. I learned later that lots of neighbors had been part of the party, but trying to sleep. Anyway, Paddy would dig into his boxes, which were as yet unopened, finding photographic books, treasures and all the while drinking red wine. I soon learnt a little of Paddy's unusual habits, although I put here that our memories fail us, but it's been confirmed by quite a few that I did seem to recall that he took off Mondays, or at least he slept late. And on several occasions, actually, the department, via I won't say who, would phone me and say, "Is Paddy around?" I say, "Yeah, no, he's sleeping," And I'd have to go and wake him up. And of course, Paddy was difficult to wake up because he slept like a baby. I mean, he had this incredible passion of the jaw, but when he put his head down, he would sleep, This is something that we long for. He held me up in a very difficult time. I'd fallen into my own ditch. Relationship was ending. Struggles and Interson left politics, which was stabbing me. And together with other brothers and sisters at the time, they took me into a brave new world of photography, of pool and pot. It was tremendous, you know. He loved exploring. I can remember many roads around here, old churches, etc. Yes, his mother taught him yoga. In fact, he introduced me to yoga. Today I'm a yoga teacher, in part because of Paddy. He was always good to children, especially to my daughter who lost her mother, who warmly remembers his passion for Scorpa and his kind heart, you know. Hambagahle umfowethu. Hambagahle. May your spirit of a life fully lived always remain with us.
Thank you, Rob. I think we can allow one more. And then what I'd like to do is for you to gather outside on the other side of the tables. There's going to be music on the balcony upstairs. So we'll go out around the tables and then look up at the balcony. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for coming. And to all the people around the world that are watching. The last item that I have here is just to thank a few people, quite a few people in fact. So please forgive me if I miss out someone. But just before I do that, I just want to say that Sarah and I were very fortunate to be able to speak to Paddy on the Friday night before he died on the Saturday at lunchtime. And that was very moving. And as you said, Graham, as well, our heart goes out to Liz. It's never easy to lose someone that you are that close to. So thank you to the School of Journalism and Media Studies for their support, the tech support, all the equipment here and the students under Alet's capable management. Sponsoring the snacks and flowers. There's Sanala Majakuja, the technical operator, Fikile Samson, technical manager, and the JMS television students who assisted. The remaining members of the Birdsongs Choir for their songs. Thank you for treating us like your beautiful harmonies and lovely songs. Dave Knowles for performing Teardrop. Thank you. And the music department, Marimba Band, unfortunately didn't make it for various reasons. Robbie van Nikkak for organizing the music and the banner, and Graham and Mia and Brian, and Mia, and our friend Finn. This is a bit confusing because they've been in different places. So that's PGCE student JJ, his daughter Mia, and our friend Finn, as well as Graham, for the artwork on the banner. Thank you. Very beautiful, moving banner. Then Brian Garman for assisting with the program. In fact, he, what was the term he used? Beautified it. Or I put together a rough version, which he then beautified. Polished was the word he used. He polished it. So in the end product, a very lovely memento for people to take away with you. Orla Quinlan for the video. As I said earlier, she was unable to attend. She really wanted to. Our praise poet, Akona, I think it's Bordi or Bordel. I'm not sure if it's an L or an I. Ngaka Mafani, thank you for your wonderful praise poem. I'm sure that the passion with which you delivered it would have reached Paddy wherever he is in the cosmos. And it's still speeding out there towards the
ever-expanding universe. Then everyone else who spoke and contributed to many to mention. Alette for acting as producer and herding us all along. And that's take some considerable herding. Everybody's quite busy. As we speak in Bathurst, we are fighting a mining application on the Commonage at the same time as this was all going on. Diana Arno for making the memorial slideshow videos of Paddy, with photos donated from various people, including Fred Hendricks, Alette, Sarah, and myself, Diana herself, and Paddy's friends and students, which they posted on the WhatsApp group. Graham for his playlists, which I'm sure will regale us this evening. They're fantastic. Anyway, if you just download them, if you're on Spotify, download this beautiful music lists of music, and remember Paddy while you listen to hours of very beautifully curated music. I've already done so. Thank you. Then, yeah, we'll try not to break too many things when we get driving at your place. Okay. Dee Snyder for cooking his fantastic curries for the after party as a gift to his memory of Paddy, an old friend, housemate of many years, who was also his cousin. Apparently you have to speak to him if you want to find out what that's all about. Cindy Harris, or Cindy Snow, or Big Sin, as we call her, for being Paddy's runner and general event dog's body. Through the years, you've been amazing in organizing stuff, shows, festivals, all kinds of stuff. Still around, still going strong. Well done. Paul, Christine, and Rob for helping with the flowers. Robbie for organizing the banner with Graham. I think that was supposed to be earlier. And finally, thanks to Liz Morell, Paddy's partner and wife, for lending Paddy to us for so many years. It could not have been easy living separately. I know you did come out a few times and he went there regularly, and you went to Mauritius together to get married. So thank you. We are thinking of you, and hopefully we'll see you one of these days. Thank you, everybody. If you could head out, and the last item of music will regale you.
Can we play the parting glass now from the back?
Yes, parting glass, please.
I spend it in good company, and of all the harm that e'er I done, alas, it was to none but me. For all I've done, for want of wit, to memory that I must go and pass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And of all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. my lot that I must go and you must not. I'll gently rise and I'll softly call good night and joy be with you all. Of all the money that e'er I had, I spend it in good company, and of all the harm that e'er I done, alas, it was to none but me. For all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fell to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And of all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. But as it falls unto my lot that I must go and you must not, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call good night and joy be with you.